Well, you are in for a treat because, Leah, we broke a record in this interview. We not only started one 40-minute Zoom call, not two, but three. We are on the third free 40-minute phone call. And let me tell you,
yes,
it was worth every bit. We got to talk to Jill Fiore, otherwise known as my Taurus New York Italian. I feel like just vibe sister is the only phrase that comes to mind.
All I could think of was the line in, I think it's Phantom Menace, when the guy says, now it's getting out of hand. There's two of them.
But truly, the minute we got on the call, we actually didn't even start the interview, maybe like 20 minutes.
No, that's why we had to go to a second Zoom call.
It was just this immediate, like, we get each other. There is a connection here. But yes, we're talking to Jill Fiore. Please listen and savor every single word that is spoken because there is so many nuggets of wisdom in what she says. And, I'm going to leave it there. This is a long episode. Please enjoy every bit of it. I'm Beth Ann.
And I'm Leah.
And this is She Will Rock You.
Where are they getting a dub in a CBS executive meeting?
No. Bitch, don't touch my thermostat.
The ghost be like, hold up, before I haunt you, let me turn down the thermostat. Who is this band?
We're on page 1, guys. This is She Will Rock You.
Well, we are here with Jill fucking Fiore. We'll explain that later. But I feel like that
needs no explanation.
That was a proper introduction. How are you doing today, Jill fucking Fiore?
Well, you know what, Beth Ann, I'm doing fucking great. And I'm glad that we're kicking off the podcast properly with proper names. And I'll let you get into where that name came from. But I could tell you that I had a conversation with my mother just the other day where I was explaining that to her. And she was like, oh, Jill, your father would be so upset if he heard that. And I was like, Mom, come on, Dad would be proud. It's his name.
Can I tell you why I'm laughing? Because this is a little bit, some personal family history. My mom is very proud of me, but she gets annoyed that I curse on this podcast.
Well, you know what's amazing? You know what you should... You're an Italian girl too, right?
Right.
So what I like to throw back at her is that I actually learned these words at home from her.
In Italian and English.
Oh, same,
in Italian
girl.
and English. Do you know how many times my dad would stump his toe and say, fanapla? Like, do you know how many times...
Yeah,
I have heard that my whole life. The fangool. My dad wrote a song once about fangool. So, like, don't get mad at me because I say fuck. That's all I'm going to say.
Because I learned it from you. But anyway, thank you for that incredible introduction. I'm really happy to be here. I love what you gals are doing. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, we're so glad to have you. You are such a prime example of what we try to accomplish and highlight on this podcast. So I am just so over the moon that you're here. But
that's lovely.
Let's roll into this first question.
Sure.
I want to start by talking about your sound and recent projects, but let's get started on your sound because I think you have a really awesome, unique sound. How did you craft that?
Okay. Thank you for that. I love when people kind of, it's nice to feel like I'm doing something unique. And, it's kind of like something I didn't even understand. Like when I was younger, I knew that I had a voice. I just didn't really know what to do with it. And I had like a music teacher that reached out to my mom and was like, your daughter has a gift. And like, what do you do with that information as a parent? And like, what do I do with it as a kid? And I knew that I gravitated to music at a young age. I didn't really truly get into being in bands until I was in college and playing in cover bands because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And then I think it was like, I started to discover that like, I can actually, in my late 20s, I was like, I wanted to be in New York City. I was in this scene and forming, an original band that stemmed from me listening to people like Jeanette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde, who
Mhm.
has this, I heard the song Joey and I was just like, oh wow, like what? Oh, it's okay to sound this like deep, sexy voice and not be like a pretty songbird. And that really spoke to me. And even like Janis Joplin, and I heard the word powerhouse, and I think that I started to understand that powerhouse is a descriptive word of a type of artist and a type of of singer, and that really spoke to me as like, okay, that this is my genre, for lack of a better phrase. I knew that I loved rock and roll because I heard this band called Led Zeppelin. Perhaps you ladies have heard of it.
Just
A little
slightly.
bit.
Slightly.
Just a little. And I remember just feeling like really entranced by their sound, and I just loved, I think that I'm a person that really loves like just powerful female vocals, heavy guitar riffs. I remember as things moved on, I heard like Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, and he went on and did his solo stuff, and it just like all of this combination of like a really powerful voice over like, intertwined with these like really hooky, like grungy riffs. And then let's give proper honorable biggest mention to PJ Harvey, which is actually who made me pick up a guitar in the first place. And I think a lot of people are like, maybe kind of compare some of what I do to her. And I mean, I could go on. Let's not forget, like, it was just the 45th anniversary of Rumors and Fleetwood Mac, and who isn't inspired by, Stevie Nicks? Like, you're just kind of like moved by that. So I would say, like, I love this question because it can spur, like, we'll need another podcast episode to continue the conversation. But because it's not like a one and done thing, it's like, to me, it's like this big conglomerate of artists and songs and, just things that all kind of form this one thing. But the unique thing on top of it all is my voice that, used to be confusing or felt strange, and kind of evolved, feel so grateful that it evolved into be a very identifiable Jill Fiore powerhouse sound, which I'm really grateful for.
I love it. I love hearing the influences of all different things. And I love a good blues voice, which I would identify you having, because I feel like they're almost hard to come by today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for
cool.
like a, alto to alto, I appreciate a good, strong voice.
Right.
But I love seeing the mix of everything.
No, that's great. Because of course, like I like, just with the recent passing of Ronnie Spector, like I was very insistent upon covering Be My Baby, and I'm a rocker, and I was like, no, I want to do it. Like I think that, the definition of rock and roll, it's not really limited. Like I think bluesy and soulful people fucking rock, and fortunately, like I did that cover not only in some live shows at venues, but I was really insistent upon doing it at the Fiore Escape. And that was actually, Be My Baby was the song that people in the streets were just like singing along to. And it was this like incredible moment of connection, which, you really have to attribute to like her soulful voice. It's like, those are the things that catch people and like make something like that really powerful and recognizable. So thanks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we could talk about Ronnie Spector as well.
Oh,
day
I
in
know.
and day out, and her just monumentous influence. But she's pinned,
and a legend.
She is pinned for a future episode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
fantastic.
Points. Yes. Maybe we'll grab a sound clip from you one day.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I'm going to pin that.
I would love that.
We'll touch base on that.
I noticed you guys also, like Loretta Lynn is a big one.
Yes. She is a patron saint. So we have a whole page dedicated to the ladies who went before us in rock and roll. And they are patron saints of the podcast. They have to go through a council of me, Leah, and my dog, Rhodey, and Mia.
The toughest jury.
Now.
Yes. But are we up to 11 already?
Yeah. It's almost a full four rows in the grid.
Yeah, but we're up to Loretta Lynn was our most recent inductee, right?
Yeah. Just like last month.
What an honor. Well, this
Yeah.
is not necessarily this line is maybe not necessarily an actual depiction of something she said, but I do recall seeing Coal Miner's Daughter at a very young age with Sissy Spacek, and
Mhm.
that really registered in my mind. Like, as particularly, I like the moment where Doolittle is like, well, "Do you want this or no? I'm not going to pressure you." And she's like, "I want it." And he's like, "Say it louder." She's like, "I want to be a singer, do I want it real bad?" And it's just like, oh, I can relate to that. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know why you want it bad, but you just do. And
Mhm.
I'm fortunately at a point in my life where I'm learning like why I wanted it, why I wanted it as bad as I do and did, is because it's this most unique form of connection with people that you can really just not
Mhm.
explain other than like being in it and
Yeah.
experiencing it. And it's beautiful.
That's the power of music, honestly.
Mhm.
It's not even so it goes beyond us and reasoning, I feel like at times.
It's a
That
language
it
that
is.
yeah.
It's a language, it's vibe, not to bring too much Gen Z
To
language,
equate
but
it
it really
to the
is.
Force in Star Wars.
Yes.
It's a force. It's a vibe. I love it when things. That's how I talk with my guitarist. Will be like, "It's got vibe. It's got vibe." I
Yeah.
like it. It's got vibe.
I love that. Well, let me ask you, because you've been busy in 2021. And let's start off with your music, because you released a few
Okay.
singles. You released an
Yeah.
EP called 10 Feet Tall. I'm going to focus on the EP first. Did you
Sure.
have any like themes or goals that you were looking to accomplish with it?
Yes. So, there's a little irony in the title 10 feet tall because I'm 5'2",
Me
and it's
too.
also, oh yay, good things come in small packages. But I was going to say that so this roller coaster, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but we'll talk about the Fiore escape and how that like kickstarted things. And I just knew that I had to immediately put some music in the world. And I did put the single out, and I was like, no, there's a story with music. And 10 feet tall, and that line is also from this one of my songs. It's The Climb is the song, and it's threw myself against the wall, came back down feeling 10 feet tall. And it's just kind of like, who hasn't been through shit in
Yeah.
2020 and 2021? And I think it's like, for me, really talking about that journey of like, when you are in the thick of it, when you're in the worst of it, when you're thrown against the wall, when you're knocked down, you're at your worst, is when you have the opportunity to really climb back up. And I think of myself as someone who, though it takes a lot of work, I'm in no way saying like, oh, it's easy, stay positive all the time. Like, that's not true. There's days that it's like, this sucks, and I just want to be proud of myself for getting out of bed and making a
Mm,
cup of coffee. But there's days that I like really go after things, and I do pride myself on kind of being able to catch myself and being like, in the worst of it, I know it's going to be better. It's the thing that keeps you going, to
yeah.
know that, like, you're going to rise up. So 10 feet tall is just kind of all about that, of like experiences that make you who you are. And like, I really avoid saying things like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, or I try not to use the word should in my vocabulary. And it's like, it's hard. It takes a lot of work because we all do the shoulda, coulda, woulda. But I think it's like important to really like remember what you go through makes you who you are, and it makes you evolve. So that EP is really about the evolution of me. And what I love is that people can take whatever the hell they want to make it be relatable for them.
Yeah.
And that's another beauty about this language of music that we talk about. So that's 10 feet tall. And I don't know if you saw the cover, the album art on that.
Mhm.
um that was up on my roof with like me, the background of like the Lower East Side. And it was like, I don't know, it just kind of was a no-brainer. It was like, this is the photo, this is the one. I'm like, do I look, is that like a resting bitch face? Like, what's going on there? I'm like, do I look too mean? Because like, it's like, no, just mean enough to like, yeah, I mean business. But you know, I
I
don't
love
know.
it.
So
I love that. I love, because I you can have some positivity in music. It's fine. But I love songs that are just like, I fucking got out of bed. That's good enough. Because you're going to have days like that. And I hate, well, let me rephrase. I enjoy music that has a lot of authenticity to it. Like it doesn't like to sugarcoat. This is the reality of the situation. And I think there's such beauty in that. If that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think if I could even push it a little further and bring it to like maybe social media and how I choose to do my posts, like somebody was like, I am a very positive person, but not in a like everything's puppies and ice cream and rainbows. Like that's not real. That's not true. It's not relatable. But what I do like stand very firmly in is that being positive is a choice that you can make. And, it's not necessarily the belief that everything's okay right now. It's the belief that it's going to be. So I think that, trying to stay really rooted in authenticity is something I try to do like in my music, in what I put out there to share with people. Cause I think it's really important that, I write stuff about me and my experiences, but I do try to write them in a way that it's relatable to be interpreted like however it feels right for you. And I love that people will be like, I love this line. It made me think of my dog that had brain cancer. And I'm like, wait, what? And that's incredible. Like, okay. Like, and it's like, it's just, that's amazing to me that it has that power to like, just, to really like connect with people. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's why I get out of bed every day. Not just the coffee, but that too.
You have two reasons to get out of bed, but one of them has to be coffee. That is the rule. That is literally,
yeah. I mean, that first cup, come on.
Yeah, it's a necessity. And I do have to say, your music video for The Climb, first off, it's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
Second off, you have this mural of another patron saint, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, in there. And I got so excited. Where did you film this? I have to know.
Oh, I want to plug it because it's a magical place. And it's my friend's. It's in Tucson, Arizona. And hang on, let me just make sure that I don't mispronounce it. But it's stand by. It's wait, hang on. I just literally talked to them. Okay, it's El Pais, Pais Motel in Tucson. And I'm glad you brought it up because there's a couple of really cool things I want to point out about that video. And it's I love to encourage people, particularly women, but all people, to go after what they want in life by asking for things or saying yes to things that are presented to them. So I'm on this roller coaster, and it was my hairstylist. She moved back to Arizona during the pandemic, and like I was like, how are we going to do this? We're in this long distance relationship. I don't know if I can handle it with my hairstylist job. And I was like, we'll make it work. We'll go back and forth. That's Stephanie Hernandez, and she's a very talented lady. So she said to me, you know what? Why don't you come here? I'll reach out to my friend who is a really great video editor. He's got a drone, and I love, once you go drone, you're done for. Cause I had done some of that here in New York, and I was like, and then, she's like, come out and film a video. And I was like, you know what? I was like, okay, yes, let's fucking do it. And then it was like the planning, and we had like started to do like little creative meetings, and Mike Red, the videographer, and her and I just got on the phone, and like it was like, listen to the 4 songs. We knew we were going to do one from the 10 Feet Tall EP, and I was like, I'm feeling this one. I'm imagining a car in the desert. I'm imagining this, and like they were like, yes, and it just started spitballing. I love that I'm like essentially the creative director on it and the star of it, and I love that it could be like this me putting my music out there, but in like a multifaceted involvement. You know, it's pretty great, and it came out honestly even better than I thought it would. And you know, it's just basically about like this girl comes into town, raises hell, and leaves. And I remember
And what
talking
better
about
place than Arizona to do it?
no, and like seriously, there's something with like desert vibes that I really connect with, and the energy is just, for obvious reasons, but it's nice for me. Like I love New York. I love coming back to New York when I travel, but there's something about that moment where you go really far away and you're like, oh, I'm in the desert. This is awesome. It's like this really great moment of connection with yourself.
Mhm.
And but it was a long shoot, and like we had storyboarded everything. And I love the cars. I love driving that car. Like I had that car the whole time I was there. And it was just like I love driving. I'm from New Jersey originally. So like
Mhm.
all we had was our cars. And I lost my dad recently and he taught me how to
Oh, I'm
drive. And I
sorry.
love, thank you. That's okay. That we could talk about that openly. I'm okay with that. And I was going to say that at the video release show, I remember saying like, yeah, so this I said to a friend of mine, like the story behind this video is like, this crazy girl comes into town, has a crazy party, raises hell, and then leaves. And it was really just this glorified version of me. And my friend was like, I'm sorry, but what part of that is glorified? That is actually spot on. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. You know,
You
I'll
need people to
take it.
keep you honest.
Yeah, but I'm really happy that you guys like it, and that's great. I actually kind of like like I do want to get it out there a little bit more because I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of the people I collaborated with, and
Yeah.
I met amazing people. Like, let me tell you, those extras, air
Mhm.
quoting on a
The
podcast,
eyeball
they
extras or all the
oh,
extras?
all of the extras were all of the extras in the pool party. They were truly just having the best time, really rocking out and partying. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
acting. I was the sober one at the end, and I was like, oh my God, everyone is truly just having a great time. But this is something that I think that you ladies, as true rockers, will appreciate. But about the eyeballs, um, about those
It
eyeballs.
wasn't in my questions, but I felt like it needed to come up.
Okay, good. Well, I will tell you that that eyeball is none other than Susie Gardner from L7.
Really?
And yeah,
No.
I
No
swear to
way.
God. And her boyfriend, Hank Topless, who's a musician, they live out there. And
That's
again,
so
going back to,
funny.
it's
That's
great
crazy.
because going back to that whole message of ask for what you want. What's the worst case scenario? It's going to be no, and then you move on in life. And you also, by the way, that's a muscle that you can strengthen, hearing no over and over again, like, but anyway, I didn't get a no. I reached out to Susie because I had performed with her in a holiday live stream show. I think that what must have been Christmas 2020 because we were in the pandemic and it was live streaming. And I guess that she and her boyfriend kind of started following each other on social media. And I just reached out and I was like, listen, I'm going to be in your town filming a rock video. Would you guys come by and, say hi and hang out? And then it was like, yeah, I think they're like, yeah, we'll come by, and I'm like, great. And then I was like, wait, let me go bigger with this ask. What am I doing? And I was like, I think I was talking to Hank, not directly with Susie yet. And I was like, can you ask Susie if she would actually consider making a cameo in the video? Cause I think that, I have this idea of like, just kind of like, she's someone who's always inspired me. She's a true rock and roll icon,
Yeah.
and so just even like the thought of her presence in the video really just made me feel like it would be blessed by the rock and roll goddesses. So she and I ended up getting on the phone. He's like, yeah, he's like, she just wants to talk to you first. And she and I got on the phone and it was like this, like, when you just connect with somebody and you talk and ever since that day, so we started spitballing ideas and she's like, I have this, animal head and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, sounds great. Bring whatever you want. Like, however it's this party scene and that sounds so fun. And then I got to the place and I saw these two eyeballs and I was like, hold on a minute. And I took a picture of these crazy eyeballs and I sent them to her. And I was like, I think that this has got your name all over it. And she was like, love it. And then they came and they were the eyeballs. And it's
I'm
quite
not
a
saying this is one of my favorite stories I've heard on this podcast, but this is one of my favorite stories. Like
That's awesome.
I'm not going to make a rank tier list, but this is up there for me.
Oh,
It's definitely
wow.
up
That's
there.
awesome. Oh, yay. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh.
It's so great. And it's making me realize like the eyeballs really stand out. Like a lot of people are like, wow, the eyeballs. And I'm like, yeah, it's my girl. It's my girl, Susie. Yeah,
I love that
love it.
so much. So you also released EP in 2021, released a few singles, but you weren't done. You weren't satisfied. You also had to just go and say fuck you, COVID, and launch this awesome project called the Fiore Escape. And I'm just gonna let you take it away because this thing is just so fucking
cool.
awesome. But I do have to ask, how in the hell did you come up with this?
Oh God. How much time do we have? Because
We started a new Zoom, so we're good. We're
all
good
right.
for 40 minutes.
So, okay. So for the purposes of chronological order, the Fiore Escape came before the releases. And and the reason why I like to point that out is because it's what really put the fuel or the fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Because so the Fiore Escape, for everybody listening, feel free to Google it because it's my baby, and I'm really proud of it because basically in a time, it was the first one. So I've done 4 now, and what it is a rock show on my New York City Lower East Side fire escape, but not just like out on the fire escape, like it's the length of the entire floor of the building, in that we take the 2 windows out on the right of the fire escape and 2 musicians out. And we, I'm sure we've like, it keeps evolving with each one, which is like in sound quality and LED lighting. But to go back to that very first one, which you're asking me about and where the idea came from, was quite simply, I had what I call OG COVID. Like I got COVID in early April 2020. Like, do you remember the no tests and not a lot of information and basically just scary as hell?
Yeah.
Well, that was me. I got COVID and like knew that it was like, I was a little bit in denial. Like maybe it's a cold, maybe it's this. And then like I lost my, taste and smell and was like, oh shit. So my doctor was just basically, I was like, should I go get a test? He's like, you're not going to get one. And it was like, just buckle up. And I was like, okay, here we go. Isolation. And it was interesting journey. Both of my parents, my dad has since passed away, but both of my parents were around then. And I was like, my dad was very sick and my mom was caring for him. I was like, I've got this. Nobody spend time worrying about me. Like, I know what I have to do. I have a support system that's going to bring me stuff. Like, let's go. And, there were some nights where it was like really scary because you can't, like the breathing got difficult and you can feel this like thing happening in your chest. And like, I just remember kind of people were like, were you scared? Did you think that you were going to have to go to the hospital or like, were you afraid you were going to die? And there were a couple of nights where I was like, what if I do have to go to the hospital? That's going to be worse. So riding it out. But I remember thinking that I was really concerned because my voice sounded like unrecognizable. It was kind of like, I don't know, like B. Arthur meets a Buick muffler and has a love child. Like it was just really bad. Like it was like scary. And God bless, the bee, love her. But I'm just saying, like, it was an unrecognizable voice of sickness, and I was like, shit. I was like, I remember just kind of being like, get me through this and let me, like you're making deals. Like, if I get through this, I promise I'm going to really do something amazing with my voice, and like kind of recognizing that it was like that, that maybe it's a little cliche. I don't know if it's cliche that like when you're faced with like illness or something like that. You're like, what didn't I do? And it's like, I've always done music. I've always performed as in bands, and never it being like the level of a priority that I made it after that experience. And I love telling this moment of this moment of clarity where I went outside on my fire escape, because you're in isolation, and day 11, it was a really nice day outside. And I was like, I need air. I'm going to just crawl out onto my fire escape. And, the New York, and I know a lot of other places, were cheering for the first responders at 7 p.m. And it was just like this intense moment of connection with people that are completely separated from each other. And so that really resonated with me. I have the chills even talking about it, actually, because seeing that, like, in other countries, like in Italy, there were operatic singers, like, and just like, I was like, oh my God, I know what I have to do. And, there was still life out there in my neighborhood, like skateboarders were going by, birds were chirping. And I was just like, the idea, like, it was a little seed that formed, and it just kind of kept growing. Like, it started with like, oh, okay, I'll reach out to my guitarist and we'll just go out there. And then it was like, or maybe we can add a third person, but where are we going to put them? And then it started to be like, my friend like had this idea of, like, my neighbor was involved, and he said he would participate and take the window out. And then it was just kind of evolved to this like really cool thing that, like, I was like, oh, I get it. We're going to do this not just to like be able to perform again, but to give something to people that need it right now, because it's New York fucking City. That like, the thing, like, despite the obvious things of like financial hardship and illness and death, like, we were lacking that sense of connection that only happens with live music and the pulse of New York City nightlife. And so to give some essence of that back was amazing. And to bring some attention to the fact that, like, music venues were the first to close, the last to open, and how many lives are attached to that? Not just the musicians, but like the venue owners and the, so I was trying to bring attention to that as well. So I do remember this much, you guys. I remember that, like, the day of the first one, I was like, it sounds like not that, like, oh, a lot of people are going out on their fire escape, and like that, but that day I was like, wow, I was like, I think I'm doing something really big. Like, and I said that to a friend of mine. I was like, I think this is going to be a big deal. And it was because of like the level of effort and, like just it grew in the amount of people that got involved. It brought life to my community. And I mean, like, the business owners that needed it, with like, we partnered with the cafe down the street. They brought over their benches. I partnered with the bars that they were doing the to-go drinks. In later ones, I partnered with the bakery downstairs. They made pizza, and they were like selling and giving away pizza. So I think what made this idea of like, I'm going to perform on my fire escape, what really made it grow into something amazing is that it became something that I gave back to the community. And I'm so grateful for that. You can't possibly imagine, because I don't even, it's a pinch yourself moment that it would have that much of effect on other people and inspire people, or just bring some freaking revenue. And listen, my friends are drinkers, yo. Like, and even like there was one, when to-go drinks were legal, and then I think there was one where they weren't. I was like, my friends will find a way to, and it's not just my friends. Like the last one I think had over, like, my friend was like, I counted at one point and I think there was 175 people. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's the biggest crowd I've ever played to, and it's the smallest venue. So that's pretty ironic.
I love it so much. I mean, it's such like a it's heartwarming, but I don't mean that in like a, no, I mean, it's the most positive way I can possibly put it. It's a human moment. Speaking of humans, that was not a
Good
segue
transition.
I planned, but I'm going to run with it.
Oh God, good one.
Someone was not only featured on a little station called AB fucking C, which ABC, that is available to take if you'd like to rename your network. But
I think we're just gonna insert a fucking in like everything and just give it that
It's how I
emphasis
roll.
that yeah,
it's
I hear
how
you,
I
sister.
roll.
Yes.
But then you also were in Humans of New York. Like, first off, holy shit.
It's the coolest
Yeah,
thing that's
girl.
literally ever happened on this podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, I just want to point out that it's the coolest thing that's literally ever happened to me, and like you know, just to be on that level, like you know, I didn't understand. Like I think you know, I mean, I know a friend of mine nominated me, and then he had reached out, Brandon Stanton, the amazing creator of Humans of New York. That story alone, how he started just walking around New York taking photos of people, and it evolved
Right.
to this amazing storytelling, beautiful stories. And he had reached out to me and was like, "Are you free tomorrow for me to come over and take your picture?" And I was like, "Oh, is this happening? I don't understand what's happening." So, and then I think that, you know, like not to put a negative, like, of course there's that immediate sense of like, wait, why me? You know, you kind of just do this, like, why me? And I was like, am I really on par with these amazing stories that people share? Like all I did was, and it's like, no, I did something that brought connection and unity to people at a time that they needed it, that I needed it too. Don't let me wipe that from the slate. I needed it just as much as everybody else did. But that was an incredible moment for me. Like when that went out, it was like I was just blown away by like how incredibly, like, I didn't realize that I was inspiring people with what I was doing at the level of which I was. And then that was the wake up call of like, no, you're inspiring people. Like, and my friends still explain it to me to this day. They're like, no, you don't understand. You're inspiring people to be creative in the face of adversity, or to trust that in the hardest of times, like you're still going to come through on the other end. And to be really honest with you guys and all of the listeners, there was a switch that flipped in me with that post, which was just quite simply that, like, I think we're all tend to be, I'm generalizing, but you know, we throw the word imposter syndrome around, right? And I think that I can, you know, own that I feel that sometimes. And so being on ABC News and all of that, it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm a cool thing that's happening in the pandemic. But the support that I was reading, all the comments from people that were just like, you know, keep going. Thank you for sharing your voice with the world. Oh my God, this song. And they're like talking amongst themselves about like things that moved them, that I, as an artist, was putting out in the world, really gave me that validation of like, oh, okay, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was like, oh, like I must have cried for 24 hours straight because it was so beautiful. And you know, it's how great that it's tied to rock and roll. Like, how amazing is that to have this? Like, I know I like hearing even the way you're talking about that, about like, you'll be like, you know, I know it's good to have a positive spin. Like, yeah, we're showing the world that like you can take, rock and roll has this extreme positivity around it that brought people together.
It's not all Limp Bizkit people, I promise.
No, it's not.
Hot dog water.
No, it's so beautiful. So that, I think that to this day is like probably the most, you know, the pinnacle moment of like, oh wow, like I was really blown away because it was beautiful to just to like pick the comments that people said, and just, you know, like so many people like not only inspired but inspiring me right back even today, because I stand by that I have a tendency, and I hope this resonates with people, but I kind of wake up in a place of self-doubt and have to pull myself out of it. And I think that that's normal. I think that's normal. And if it looks on the outside that people are like, yes, I've got this, I've got it covered, I've got it all the time, I've got it under control. I don't believe that to be true for anybody.
Mm.
But someone had written me just this morning, and I love that I got it before your podcast so I could like come on and speak with like, confidence and authenticity. But someone just said, Jill, I'm so impressed by you. It takes a confident, special person to be vulnerable. And putting yourself out there, it can be risky. It can be too risky for some, but you're nailing it. We're proud to know you. Keep rocking it and bringing joys to others.
Oh, that's so nice.
No,
I love that.
that's better than the coffee. That's better than the coffee.
Yeah.
Like that's better than that first cup, because I do have moments of like, what am I doing? I must be crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in my late 40s, and just like owning what feels really natural to me.
Yeah.
And when I hear that it's truly inspiring others, that's the shit that keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just listening to all this is inspiring me. Like,
Yeah.
just to let
Yes,
you know,
what are we
on the
gonna do?
inside, I'm like, shit, what am I doing? That like,
Not
as if a podcast wasn't
We're doing
enough.
a podcast, Beth Ann.
Which, by the way, actually, that's a lot. You are doing a lot, and I
Yeah.
think that no, and I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because it's something that I had to really squash. Which, like, I am my worst enemy in feeling like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I'm not putting out the next thing. I'm not blah blah blah, and it's like, calm the fuck down. By the way, I dropped the F-bomb as much as you do, if not more. But I really think that I have to remind myself to calm down, not compare myself to others.
Yeah.
And like, I do that a lot because I'm human and there's blood running through my veins, not iced tea. And, but I think it's like that like being proud of myself. Like, you know what? I did enough today. I'm doing great. I think what you gals are doing is really amazing. I'm really proud of
you.
No, I'm really proud of you both. And I'm inspired by you. And I looked at your website. We're all in it together. I looked at your website. I'm like, oh my God, I have to fix my website. I'm not doing enough of this, that's the other thing. So I think maybe we can turn that into a positive thing in itself.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we're keeping each other accountable.
Absolutely. We got to stick it in. 'Cause, like, we were just talking to another artist, like the amount of like little respect women in rock and roll get as is, we got to stick together and prove them wrong.
Yes.
100%.
Whatever niche of rock music you're in, no matter what side of it, we all got to stick together and prove them wrong and show
Absolutely.
our positivity.
And that's what I love about your podcast, because it's definitely like you're really just like, the focus on rock and roll is what really drew me in. And I had this, I can tell you, like, I love that we're talking about all the positive stuff, but there's been a couple like negative Nellies along the way. That's like, I met a guy just like out who worked at a record label. We're not naming names, but and kind of like explaining what I had been doing, and it was a very cliche music industry nightmare experience that or like the things you hear of, where he was like, and he's like, well, what kind of music? And I'm like, rock and roll. And he's like, oh, well, that you're done for right there. And I'm
we
like,
have heard this.
So
What do you
many
mean?
people.
We heard this from another record label, and we're not going to mention names.
We're not mentioning names.
We heard that, and we're a living testament that that's wrong.
Yeah.
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah. It's generalization, you know? And, like we spoke of earlier, like blues is rock and roll, soul is rock and roll. Like, like there's a reason why people say you rock. Oh my God, we're rocking it. Like, cause it means a lot more than just like being, kind of pigeonholed into like the music genre. So, I like the exercise. I mean, I don't love it. Actually, I don't like it. I get through the exercise of having to take things like that with a grain of salt and being like,
sure.
like what, it's a negative, it's a negative thing that on the other person's part to feel compelled to tell me that without even listening. I can hear that if he listened. This is what I love about putting music in the world. You are entitled to your opinion. You don't have to like it. It would be odd if everybody liked it. Like I'm not going to appeal to everybody. I'm happy to appeal to 5 people, and but at least like give it a listen before you pass judgment on like, oh well, no, you're not gonna, you're done for. It's rock and roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did we get there? Oh,
So
I like we're all like on our soapbox right now about the importance of rock and roll. I'm into that.
I'm here for a good soapbox. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really quick. Do you have any 2022 projects you have planned out? More music, more release, more Fiore escapes?
Yeah, I have to do one in the spring because it's become.
Ooh, when in the spring?
I don't know, but you girls.
I'm only saying this because I'm going to be in New York in April, so I'm going to be
April what?
Probably around Easter is the plan right now.
I don't know when Easter lands this year, but I got you. I was
of April.
Well, I have a show at the Barry Electric on April 23rd, and it's my birthday show. If you're still here, I'm not sure when the next Fiore Escape will be because there's at this point it's like a lot of people involved, and what we like to it's definitely something to do in the nice weather. But I like that there's still a demand for them because the last. Somebody like I was interviewed, I forget, I think it was for AM New York, and someone referred to it as a New York experience, which is like one of
Along
the best
with the naked cowboy.
I know, where did that
added to the top attractions list?
I love it. But I like it is a really magical New York experience. And then a lot of people are like, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I'll knock on wood. But a lot of people are like, how are you not getting arrested? Or how are they and how are they allowing you to do that? I'm like, well, I think that it's just such a positive thing that brings people and the community together that it's just kind of like simply working out on the trust and the faith that it's a really good thing. I know that like two of them, some cops rode by, like checked it out and drove on. Because we're not doing anything illegal or disruptive. It's a positive, lovely gathering of people. And
Absolutely.
it's entertainment in the mecca of entertainment center. And there's still a lot of people that are uncomfortable going into music venues right now. I have a friend who has a brother who's like really, compromised, so she doesn't do it. But it's more for the joy and the sense of like, this is a cool Lower East Side New York thing. So I will definitely let you know the date of that.
Please do.
But as far as releases, I'm in the process of doing a lyrics video, which is my first ever lyrics video. And it's interesting that it's bringing up a lot for me. It's for my latest single, which I released in November, which was a song called Away From Me that I wrote for my dad after he passed last winter. And I will say that I took it. It's not quite as rockin' of a tune. It has like more of a beautiful storytelling aspect to it. A nice beat. It's a bit more poppy maybe, but my voice will always be deeply rooted in rock and roll and powerhouse, and my songwriting style is always the chorus has the verses are kind of telling you the story of what I'm going through, and then the choruses of that moment of like what I got from that and what I'm overcoming, and like hard hell no, we're gonna get through this. But what I love about that song is that there's no one that hasn't experienced a loss in the past year and a half, 2 years, like whether it's a job, a boyfriend, a parent, an idea of something you wanted to do in your head. Like we've all kind of like had to deal with some level of loss, and it's about feeling that. And what comes out of the other side of that is greatness. Because I mean, I don't know, maybe greatness sounds cliche or a little exemplified, but I guess a little amplified. But it's you do get through these things. When my dad died, it was 10 days after he had seen me on NBC All Access, where they he was sick, so it was definitely like a scenario where I didn't feel like I didn't get to say what I wanted to say. Like I was able to say what I wanted to say to him, knowing that, and was near. And I think that the biggest gift, you still question that when someone, did I say everything? Was I a good daughter? Did I get there enough? It was a pandemic, couldn't do, but and like all of those things. But I think that what I am so grateful for, and why the Fiore escape is just such a precious, precious thing for me, not only because it's his name, which I get to carry on forever. I made history with my dad's name. But he saw me and his name on TV before he died, and he died really proud of me. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's why that song is so very precious. But because of that, there is such a heavy, heavy emotional tie to releasing this lyrics video that every time I'm watching it to do an edit, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I got to brace myself for for watching this edit. And keeps kind of like grounding me and pulling me back in, and I have to do it. I have to put it out there for that reason. But it's interesting because it's like, sure, put out a video of me like driving through Arizona like a crazy bitch, like partying at a pool party, and like that's like no problem. But this is like, oh my God, but it's my lyrics, and it's like synced with the music, and people are going to be paying attention, and it feels like there goes that vulnerability again.
Well, I'm excited to see it.
Are you? Okay, good.
I'm looking forward to it. So you better do it, if not just for me.
I think I don't have the date for it, but I'm fairly certain it'll be at the end of February.
Awesome.
It's okay. So soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe it could. We're releasing this episode at the end of February, so maybe they'll just.
Maybe the worlds collide. That would be really cool.
Yes.
But other than that, I'm really spending. Sorry, just to. Congratulations! You probably have the biggest talker on your podcast that you.
No, I've loved every minute of this.
Oh, okay, good. I was going to say that just to go back to your question, and then, I am. That release was like the result of like writer's block, grief, so stuck. So when that song came out, it was like, woo, okay, somebody popped the cork and now it's just flowing. But I think now this winter, like I'm writing, and that also was like just kind of slow. I think I felt that I needed a break. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was like, it's like putting that pressure on yourself, like, why aren't I writing every day? And then once again, like, it was like, oh, something came to me, and now I have like 4 songs in the works, and it's like a verse here, a chorus here, a hook here. So I'm kind of like deep in it with writing and just kind of figuring out, like, should I just keep releasing? I like releasing things into the world. It's really exciting, so I'm trying to figure out, like, do I release another single in the spring? And I think I'm going to release one for my birthday in April.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's exciting. I'm also an April baby. I was born.
Are you? When's your birthday?
April 29th.
21st.
Oh, nice.
What's up, Taurus?
Hell yeah. Stubborn as fuck.
Wait,
and like to nap.
Wait, Italian and Taurus, this makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's no wonder the minute you got on the call, we started vibing, and I'm like, there's something there.
It's like, okay, I get it.
So before I throw it over to Leah, because she does have some really fun lightning round questions to include our podcast with, where can the people find you?
Okay, where can the people find me? Well, I feel like it's very important to lead with, please find me on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon Music. And like I said earlier, give it a whirl. You don't like it, you don't like it. If you do like it, give it a like, because that helps me out. So it's
give it a follow on Spotify.
That would be really. Oh, did you? Thank you so much.
Did.
That means a lot to me. And I love that I do, like, it's important to me. Like, I love that it happens organically through like conversations and stuff like that. So that's beautiful. Thank you. So yes, on Spotify, it's just Jill Fiore. And then on my socials, I somehow got like back in the day, it was like this discussion of what should the name be, and someone suggested Sound and Fury instead of Sound and Fury.
Ooh, I like that.
So that kind of stuck. So it's SOUNDANDFIORE, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Sound and Fiore.
Because we were talking about pizza before we hit record, where is the best pizza in New York City?
Okay, it's in my neighborhood. It's called Scars, SCARRS. And it's usually has like a line wrapped around the corner that like people are like, I'm not waiting on that line. And then the line goes fast and you get your slice and you're like, holy shit, best slice ever.
Nice.
That's on Orchard on the Lower East Side. Okay.
Whenever we visit, we'll hit it up.
Yes.
Awesome.
Which of your guitars is your favorite?
That is a really mean, cruel question, but I think that I have to say that it's the Fender Strat. And I think it's because it's the first one. I played my first show. It's what my first show was at the Double Down in Las Vegas, and I played solo.
Nice.
Random,
awesome.
right? And I played solo, and I was after there was like a roller derby girl event, and it was like all of these like hardcore chicks, and I remember feeling like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to follow this. But I had my trusty Strat and my amp, and I felt like I've always felt really secure with the Strat. So I have to say,
I love that.
I love that.
You guys didn't hear that.
They didn't hear it.
Anything.
The other guitarists is like, it's okay.
What is your guilty pleasure TV show?
Oh God. Okay. I mean, I kind of like to consider myself like stylistically, I think that I'm like rock and roll chic to some degree. I've got the big blonde hair. Though I was traumatized by the first episode of Just Like That, I have religiously watched Sex and the City. So my guilty pleasure is definitely Just Like That. And Sex and the City, because to me, you can watch it over and over again. And I remember once, I remember moving to New York, my dad was like, hey, I hope you don't think it's going to be like that show, Sex in the City. And and at the time I was living in Hoboken and already like working in the city, going out in a band. And I was like, it already is. So, okay, I'm ready for the next one.
And the last one is the one that we ask everyone who comes on our show. If you were a cereal, what would you be and why?
Okay, answering that question honestly and openly, with my immediate answer, it's definitely Rice Krispies because of the snap, crackle, pop, and being younger and knowing that like there's noise involved with my cereal, and like there was this like you kind of put the effort into like listening to it. But I know that was somebody else's answer, so I can't.
They had a different reasoning.
Oh, okay. So that's my reasoning, because I, snap, crackle, pop, like, hello, making some noise. But I was always, I was going to say that my backup cereal is Cheerios. And
regular Cheerios or Honey Nut Cheerios?
Regular Cheerios. And here's why. Because what do you associate it with? Children throwing them all over the place in their high chair. Like you always see little kids just kind of like causing havoc, raising hell with some Cheerios. So I might forego the Rice Krispies and go with the Cheerios. Also, too, a little tidbit, if you're craving something like really sweet, just pour a little bit of chocolate syrup on those regular Cheerios and they turn into like a chocolatey delight. The milk changes.
I'm pinning that.
I'm gonna go ahead and defer to that as like that's gonna be my answer. The Cheerios. How about that? Cheerios with chocolate syrup. That's my cereal.
I approve of this.
Okay.
Well, Jill, I'm gonna be honest.
Is there one more?
Nope, that was it.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, cool.
I'm going to be honest. We're going to need to have you on the podcast again because this has truly been incredible. I have loved talking to you. Like I said, it's the Italian the Italian Taurus. There's a vibe here. And then Leah's an Aries. So she's next to us on the chart.
Yes.
Right there. And I'm because I'm the 21st. So I'm like early Taurus. I'm like the first day. So this all makes sense. No, I'm delighted. This was fun. And I feel like we have to watch the time because we could keep going on and on and on.
Well, we'll have a part 2, the Jill Fiore experience, part 2.
Yes. We'll have
I love it.
We will definitely schedule it out, maybe around the next project. We definitely got to do that.
And that sounds great.
This has been so much fun.
Thank you for listening. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. Special thanks to Death of Fawn for our intro riff. You can visit our website at shewillrockyou.com. There you'll find links to our social, the show notes, and a place where you can contact us. And now presenting Jill Fiore's The Climb.
I took my last pill today. I washed it down with your mistakes. Oh, whoa. everywhere now.